What are the things that you can do as a parent to make sure that your child becomes emotionally resilient and able to get through these really, really tough times in the best way possible? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Today we have with us Miss Sonal Singh. I came to meet Sonal through one of the programs run by the company that I work with, where they have these wonderful sessions where you can get to know a lot about mental health, parenting, different ways to get through these really tough COVID times, and so on. And I found her sessions to be truly inspirational. She had insights that helped me get through the difficult times myself. Between the time we shot this interview and now, a lot has changed in India. The COVID cases have drastically come down, schools have reopened, and we are all inching towards a new normal. So, some of the points mentioned in the talk may not be the case anymore. But the things discussed here and the tips offered are so timeless that I had to post this without editing out much. Anyone who has gone through the pandemic will be able to relate to what is being discussed here. Hi, Sonal. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Sheetal. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.
The pleasure is all ours. So, when the second wave happened, and even now, as we are going through the ebbing flow of it, we went through collective agony as a society,
Mhm.
leave alone the agony each family has gone through by losing their own loved ones. I mean, almost every family has lost someone or the other. Some families have lost more than one family member. So, how do we handle this? The feeling of being unsafe in your own country, in your own house for that matter, is very much there. So, this a constant level of anxiety that everybody is living with right now. How do we get around it?
Great question and so timely, Sheetal. Absolutely, like you said. Um, absolutely, we all are struggling through this collective anxiety, uncertainty, and a lot of confusion about, where are we going? Is this going to end at some point? When is it going to end? So there is this, what I see, and not just with my clients, of course, I experience it as well, but with my clients and all around, we are so burdened with this with all of these anxious thoughts that sometimes we are not even aware that we are actually burdened with these thoughts. It's like sitting somewhere in the back of our heads, and the pressure of it is such that we are now losing interest in the things that we enjoyed, small things that we could do very easily, like working on an email, or let's say even taking care of the house or taking care of the kids, whatever it might be, simple little activities can seem very overwhelming and exhausting. And that exhaustion is even more amplified, has been more amplified during the second wave, because everything seemed completely out of our control. Even if we were taking precautions and sitting at home, or we knew people who were doing that, they were still getting sick. And even otherwise, just a collective fear around, right? So, my strong suggestion and recommendation would be, and this is what I try to do myself as well, is to really bring yourself back into the center. And what I mean by that is absolutely trying to normalize your life in the way that it would if you were living under normal circumstances. So that means having proper structures and routines, having a proper sleep routine, eating good, nutritious food, exercising, making time as a family for fun. Because if you notice, all around us, we are no longer having fun. Like the idea of just getting that downtime and relaxing is no longer there. Like we are binge watching Netflix, or we are on our phones, but it is almost as an escape. It's not because we are really, and a distraction. It's not really because we are enjoying it, we are doing it mindfully, right?
There's a certain level of desperation to our binge watchers these days, I feel. Something to
Yeah,
keep our minds off
absolutely.
what's happening around us.
Absolutely. So that would be the thought that I would like to share, that bring that normalcy back, because when we are able to bring that normalcy back, we feel more grounded, right? We know what to expect in our day, we know what to expect in our routine, our kids know what to expect. And just the safety of having those structures and routines can be transformational, especially in this time when everything else is so uncertain and out of our control.
Hmm.
So that is my recommendation,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So even if you're a single person alone at home, still those structures would help you. Still having a routine would help you.
Yeah, because think of how exhausting it is if you are on technology and screens all the time, which is what we are doing.
True.
And we're not doing it consciously. It's an unconscious, you know, sort of move that's occurring. And we
Just a
almost are
flick.
thinking,
Take the phone and
yeah,
flick.
absolutely. And we are wondering, why are we so exhausted? And and so irritable, right? I mean, we all are in this on the edge almost, right? And the reason is because we are dealing with all this anxiety on the outside. Our brains are tired. We have not had any fun all this while. And even the so called fun that we are having is not really fun because we are on our phones, but we are carrying the guilt of all the other things that we are supposed to be doing, we should have done, that we are not doing because we are, on the phone or watching something on TV, etc. So all of these feelings just keep getting amplified and getting layered one on top of the other. And yeah, and then you are in physical pain because your shoulders are hurting and all sorts of aches and pains are coming in, and you're tired. You're actually tired. It doesn't matter if you're a single person, if you have a family, we all are in this state of this collective exhaustion.
And plus, on top of all of this, that anxiety that we've been talking about, so the thing that's always there in the back of our mind, that starts to rub off on kids or other family members. How do we handle that? How do we safeguard everyone from that?
Yes, and this is a common problem that is really something that so many parents are coming to me with, about how to, because they're seeing a lot of behaviors at home by their kids that are not something that they saw before March 2020, right? So
Hmm.
after that, kids are more clingy, or they are much more irritable, or they are escaping into their rooms or into their screens and just not wanting to interact with anybody, or kids are just generally more fearful, right? And all of this is a factor of what is going on in their environment, which is the adults and the grown-ups. The fact that we also are trying to find a way of balancing our work demands with our home, with that of the children. And it hasn't been an easy process to figure this out without having adequate support that we were maybe used to otherwise, right? So this has been a learning process for us as well. And in that whole process, what has also occurred is that we as adults have also been exposed to the news of COVID so much, and we've talked about it so much with our family and friends, and kids overhear all that concern and uncertainty and the anxiety, and they absorb it, right? And coupled with that, if you remember last year, there was this tragic death of this actor, Sushant Singh Rajput, and that created huge amounts of anxiety and fear again in children, because families were consumed, or like we as a country were consumed by such conversations. So what we have to realize is, when we expose children to a lot of this kind of news or information, children may not be able to talk about it and share what their concerns and fears are, but it will show up in their behavior, right? And anxiety shows up in different ways, like not wanting to sleep, not wanting to eat, a lot of behavior, a lot of tantrums, a lot of anger outbursts, because children also feel out of control, and they don't know what to do when when they are not feeling safe. Plus, on top of that, even though we are at home, we are not really spending that quality time with our kids because we have so much more on our plate now, right? So kids are no longer getting that sense of safety or bonding the way that they might have experienced earlier, even though you're present all the time. So that is the sort of, the conflict over
Irony.
here. You're present, and I mean, how much more present can you be because you're there all the time? It's just that you're no longer spending that quality time with your kids the way that you might have done earlier. You're no longer having fun. You're no longer going out to dinner. So it's very important that as parents, we make a very conscious choice to carve out time on a day to day basis or on a weekly basis to spend time doing fun things with our kids, connecting with them, getting on the floor and playing Lego, getting on the into in their rooms and maybe playing a video game if that is what they want you to do, and enjoy that, right? Your idea is to form a connection and a bond with the child for them to feel safe, however that might be. It might be that you plan a certain special menu for some day of the week, and everybody in the house kind of gets ready for it, and you make an evening out of it. You play board games, whatever it is. You try to find some way of making sure that you're bringing an element of fun, because what fun does is allows us to snap out of that space of worrying, rumination, anxiety, and get into a space where we feel safe and connected and bonded with our family members. So that is what is really helpful. All of this is along with structure and routine,
Hmm.
making sure that you are giving a structure and routine to yourself and your kids, putting devices away at a certain time in the evening, like right before dinner, having at least one meal that is completely device free for everybody, including the adults, and making sure that the kids are going to bed on time. Very
Hmm.
critical. Kids are going to bed at midnight these days, 1 o'clock. It's like nonstop. I've had so many parents tell me that their kids are sleeping at 4 5 in the morning because there's no worry to wake up. So get your kids to bed. You will get them to bed early and on time, and you will see that they feel safer. They have a reason to wake up in the morning where they feel more in control of their lives.
Even you, I mean, if the kids go to sleep early, I think the parents also tend to fare much better because they get that really required downtime where it's just adults and no kids conversation and no constant demand. So that helps us regroup and come back the next day much stronger. I feel what you said is right. And even like to add to the point that you were speaking about earlier, like you said, though we are like present at home 24 by 7 now within the kids sphere, what is happening I think is also that because of that constant interaction, the level of fights or arguments or those unpleasant parts have also increased. Now for me, I have a daughter who's not yet a preteen, so I'm still safe. But I know of people who have teens as who have kids who are teens or pre-teens, and when you constantly keep hearing your mom or dad talking to you about something, you really don't want that. So that keeps happening all the time. And even you, for that matter, I think earlier it was a much more structured, segmented kind of space, right? So when you had your calls or your office work, you were still not interacting with your kids as much because they would be in school, or it's a totally different environment. Now that all of this is mixing together, the chances of them making noise and then you having to snap at them for reduce your voice, so something like that also increases. So it's very very important, I feel, that we balance it out, like you said, with the fun parts of it or the bonding parts of it, because somewhere we are always thinking that we are there all the time, how much more can we spend time with them? But that's not true. That is not the kind of time that they want from you, basically.
Exactly. And one of the things that I always talk about is, kids, of course, want your attention, they want your time. Most of the times, we as parents give them a lot of attention in terms of, giving them instructions, telling them what they are not doing right, telling them what they should be doing instead, like all these different things which are not necessarily, like they're not filling anybody's bucket, let's put it that way, right? So if you have an emotional bucket, it is not really filling the bucket. In some ways it's taking it out, and the parents are tired, right? Like, just get it done now. I mean, I want to focus on the things I have to focus. However, the kids are experiencing this, right? They're not experiencing enough of filling the bucket. What does filling the bucket look like? Actually telling them what they're doing well, right? So many times when kids are doing what you want them to do, and what, you really are grateful that they're doing, maybe at some level also, we'll just say nice job, well done. And the challenge is that when they are not doing something well, you have given them a whole explanation or an understanding of why it has not been done well, what was wrong with it. And, like, they know exactly what was wrong with that whole situation. But when they've done something well, they have no idea what is it that was done well, other than something as mysterious as nice job or well done. I mean, so an example of that would
Generic.
be, let's say, yeah, let's say your child is playing independently with Legos and they're not disturbing you while you're working, right? So now, at that point, most parents have a couple of reactions. One is, don't say anything, because then the child might get distracted and, will actually pay attention to me. So just keep as quiet as a mouse and continue doing whatever you're doing. The second is to just quietly tell the child, oh, yeah, well done, right? So that's it. Now the child has no idea, A, that you actually appreciate that in a big way. Secondly, the child also has not received any attention, none whatsoever that is meaningful, and they are craving your attention. So if at that time you were going to tell the child that, let's say the child's name is Shaurya, so nicely you're playing with your Legos quietly, and I love how creative you're being, and the fort that you're making is, so interesting, it has all these different levels, and I'm noticing you're really so focused on it. Now the child has so much more information on what they are doing well, right? And why you appreciate them. So then they will do more of it. The more they will do, the less you have to be telling them what not to do. So it's a cycle, right? And this is where our energies need to be kind of balanced. Focus more on what they're doing well, give them a lot more positive attention rather than a lot more um, sort of difficult or, negative attention.
Yeah. Only thing in that scenario, with my daughter, I think if I finish saying that, I think every 5 minutes she'll be coming to me with the masterpieces she has created and say, look, Mama, I've done one more, which is great. Which is probably
Yeah,
why
and,
I also
and that
tend to be like, okay, let her play in peace. Let me not make noise.
yeah, and that's the thing. That's where we have to help the child understand. I love how you're making all these beautiful masterpieces. What I want you to do is, I want you to make your two or three, and then once I'm done with my call, because I'm on my call, so for 10 minutes or 20 minutes, this is the thing. I want you to do it independently, and I will be working. So after that, I would love to see your pieces and then make a big deal about it.
Hmm.
Right. So you've communicated what you wanted. And when they have listened to you, you also tell them, I really appreciate that you heard me and you knew that I was on my call and you didn't disturb me. That was great. So, so thoughtful of you. So again, you've told them what you appreciate about them.
Yeah, and probably maybe it'll take them 2 or 3 times to get it, but I'm sure
Yes.
keep at it. They'll get the message that okay, at the end of this, she will come and look at this, and she will make a big deal out of it, and I'll get the attention that I've been looking for.
So you bring a very good point, Sheetal. You bring up a very good point, which is that whenever we are doing anything with our kids and it has to influence behavior, the
Hmm.
key piece is to be consistent.
Hmm.
If we are not going to do it consistently, it's not really going to work. So I might do it once and, I might get a great result, or the child is going to look at me, you're never nice to me. What's wrong with you? Right. So that might be another way that they'll come back to you. And the idea is to keep going at it. And
Mm.
the more consistent you are, you will start seeing a difference, and the child will understand that, okay, she actually, or he, my dad or my mom, a- actually mean what they're saying. And
Mm.
they are not doing this as a one off thing. This is something I can expect.
Mm.
Safety, right?
Yeah,
Because
true.
it's no longer an uncertainty.
Yeah.
So, consistency is very important. Doing it again and again, and do it for a while before, even if you don't see the results immediately, do it for a while. But I promise you, in something like this, you will see the results much sooner than later. And try it with your spouse. Okay, so you will see mega results with your spouse. In fact, your spouse will definitely tell you, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you getting angry? And just be cool about it. Like, I decided I'm going to try this new way, and you will see the change in your relationship. Yeah,
Wow.
just
But
test it out.
give me a few examples of that if you can, or at least one. I'm very
Uh,
enthusiastic. Sorry, very enthusiastic to learn it.
so it's the same thing. Let's say you've asked your, your husband every single day to help you clear the dishes,
Hmm.
right? And some days he does, some days he doesn't, right? And it ends up in this annoyance, maybe not a fight, but at least an annoyance. The day he does, tell him, I really appreciate that you helped me, because I was, like, I was tired, and the fact that you helped me means a lot. It shows me that you really are thoughtful. So thank you for that. Just that one sentence, right? He will be unnerved, extremely unnerved, but do it anyway, right? And the next time you ask for the same thing, it'll happen more often than not. We are looking for incremental changes. There is no magic switch that you will turn on and suddenly everything will change overnight. You will look at incremental changes, and you want to see more and more of that behavior. So anytime your husband, or your wife for that matter, because we, both
True.
both spouses can actually start giving this kind of recognition to the other, it again fills the cup, right? It makes you feel acknowledged and validated, because otherwise you are doing what you're doing and the other person is like, okay, whatever, like, I mean, I've been doing all of this stuff, so what if you help me with the dishes? It's true, right? You are doing a lot, but the fact that somebody is actually helping you, you're giving that recognition. I appreciate it. When they are not helping you, you give them a long list of reasons as to why they're problematic, and why this is just not acceptable. When they do something to help you, acknowledge it,
Yeah.
and you will see this helps your relationship get stronger and better, and if nothing else, much more peaceful.
Right. And in that scenario, whether it's with your spouse or with your child, I think it's very important that we also reduce the level of expectation we have. Like, don't expect perfection in everything and then only appreciate, right? It is very important to appreciate. So in the latest example that you said about the dishes, I see very often that we tend to sometimes say, yeah, thanks for keeping all of this aside, but then you didn't do that part. Have you left it for me? So half the time they don't realize it because it's a new thing for them also, so it takes time for them. So be a little gracious about it, be a little smart about it. Don't get into
and
fights about it, whether it's your kid or
and
your spouse.
right, and ask for help nicely,
Yeah.
right? I noticed that you picked up all the dishes, but that's left. Did you want me to do it, or I would really appreciate if you could help me with it?
Yeah, rather
Simple
than
as that.
making it sound like a tana, do it in a nicer way.
Yes, don't give the snide remark, because the snide remark,
Oh,
I
yeah.
just remember there are two buckets, right? You're either, or there's this one bucket, you're either filling it up or you are taking out from it. The snide remark is taking it out. The tana is not helping.
It
But just
actually gives a
asking,
lot of negative impact, because I've seen, at least with my husband, I always see, I'm sure it'll be the same with the kids also. They always tend to think that if you start saying these snide remarks, then their point always is like, why do I even bother helping? If I do it, then
yeah.
obviously, I'm at the end of it, I'm just going to hear a tana. Why should I do it? I don't need that appreciation if it is going to come along with a snide remark. It's okay.
Completely true. Just, I mean, that's the thing. So, noticing that when you're giving your energy, how are you giving that energy to another person,
Yeah.
right? Are you giving it in a way that is actually helping to fill the bucket and is positive? Or it is actually like out of complete sheer frustration, lot of snide remarks, lot of sarcasm. Sarcasm is a big thing. We don't realize sarcasm can go a long way in making relationships very fragile, and it applies to both children and adults,
Adults. Yeah.
right? So be careful with sarcasm. It's not I don't think sarcasm is all bad at all. I love sarcasm, but just be careful in relationships, especially when it comes to these sorts of things that are a little volatile, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
want to
You're not being
avoid it.
smart by doing it. You think
No,
you're being
no, no,
smart
no.
by doing that sarcastic bit, but you're not actually.
Yeah, and definitely in a circumstance, on a set of circumstances where everybody is anyway stressed, is anxious, is tired, you make that sarcastic remark and it might tip them over, or the effects of it are going to be really long lasting. Like somebody will be sitting in this mood of like being grumpy and they may not even know why,
Yeah.
because sarcasm is so mainstream, or snide remarks, or the tanas are so mainstream. But that just is sort of absorbed in, right? So the mood will anyways stay low because it's like internal self talk is, I can't ever do anything right.
Right.
So noticing that.
Yeah. And whether it's kids or spouse or whoever, I mean, whoever's in your family, might be your sibling, could be anyone for that matter. I think right now, with the kind of situation we are in, we are all, not just the kids, we're all processing a lot of things without knowing fully the reason for it. Like there might be this low level of anxiety, there might be this frustration. You don't, if somebody comes and asks you what is wrong, like what happened, did something happen today, there might be no answer to it, but it might be
Yeah.
something that has just triggered in your psyche. I have days like that, and I know my husband has days like that, and my kids also have days like that. So it's always a challenge to probably take a step back and support them when they need it, so that they can do the same for you when you need it as well. I guess sometimes I tell my husband, and even my kids for that matter, sometimes I tell them that I'm not in a great mood right now, can we do this later, I'll come back to you with this, but just give me a little bit of space right now. And if I'm able to like go and sit by myself for a little while, maybe have a cup of coffee by myself, I know I get back, if not normal, but at least I can handle the rest of the things that are coming. But if I don't get that space, I might just burst out. It's like that big Hulk moment, which is
Yes,
not
and
something anybody wants.
absolutely. And one of the healthiest things that you do, Sheetal, is actually telling them what you need, right? So many times we expect the other person to know what we need without us telling them, right? And that is like the place where all misunderstandings occur, because we
They
expect
don't
the other
have
person
mind
to just
reading. I mean, they don't
understand.
know. Yeah, but they don't know
Not
mind
only
reading.
Yes. So telling them, look, I need 5 minutes, or I need 10 minutes, or I'll come back to you after some time. I need some time for myself. You know,
Yeah,
just saying that much is so healthy, and you're modeling it for your kids. So
yeah.
the child understands, okay, my mom needs, or my dad needs their private space, they need their quiet time, and this is the time that I need to back off,
Hmm. Yeah, and sometimes
right?
my daughter herself now, and I take it in the right spirit, but my elder one, she sometimes tells me, Mama, I think you need to go for a walk and come back. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But yeah, like you
Yes.
said, we all have to figure out ways that each of us function better, I guess. But I think right now we are all in this fight together. Everybody is going through the same thing in our own capacity. So there's no harm in depending on each other to see you through your low time, and you will do the same for the other person. So that, I guess, that's the easiest way to get through it. At least that's what I've been trying. But of course, there are still days when as a family you may be down, there might be some bad news which has come across, which it's too shocking for you, it's too much to process through. So those may be times when everybody just needs to get through it somehow, and that's it.
Yeah. Think at that time, especially think of what we need to do to nurture ourselves
Hmm.
as individuals and as family, as a whole family together. What do you need at that moment to process the pain or that difficult news? What do you need for self-care to allow yourself to grieve or just hold space? So think of it at that time that as adults, how do you create that space for nurturing for yourself as well as for the kids that are there? Because if you withdraw emotionally at that point, the kids are left
Alone.
alone. I
Yeah.
mean, you'll take care of them, but they can't feel your energy, they can't feel your warmth, and you may not be in a place to give it either. So communicating with them and
Hmm.
telling them, that yeah, this is a difficult time and I just need some time to be, but let's do this together. So
Hmm.
let's do maybe getting the kids involved in some ways to express their on diff- whatever their difficult emotions might be, right? So doing that very intentional little steps of nurturing as a family for yourself and for the kids.
Hmm.